Pecco Bagnaia raced a MotoGP Grand Prix feeling dizzy every time he hit the brakes. He was on a spare bike. He was on tyres he hadn't planned to race on. He had just been in a crash that put another rider in hospital. And nobody stopped him. 3 laps in, it got worse. He kept going. He finished 4th on the road, got promoted to 3rd by a penalty, walked into the press room, and said the quiet part out loud. He probably wasn't fit to race. So why was he out there? And what does it say about MotoGP that the only person willing to say it was the rider himself? Here is the context the result sheet hides. Bagnaia's season is in pieces. Ducati had failed to score a single point in 2 consecutive Sunday races. Marc Marquez was out-injured. The factory team was leaning entirely on a rider who has spent the year talking about braking problems and a bike that doesn't feel like his. Then Catalunya happened. Alex Marquez's crash, the first red flag, the restart, and Zarco arriving into the back of Bagnaia and Marini at turn 1. A rider with nothing going right, a team with nothing to show, and a weekend already spiralling before the race properly began. Here is what the cameras showed, and the broadcast moved past too quickly. Bagnaia walked away from the wreckage and went straight to Zarco. The Frenchman's left leg was trapped between the swing arm and the seat unit of Bagnaia's Ducati. Marini joined him. The two of them stayed there with Zarco at the scene until the medical team arrived. That detail matters, because everything that follows happened to a rider who had just lived through one of the most violent crashes of the season and watched a colleague get carried off the track. Then he walked back to the pit, climbed onto a spare bike he had not used all weekend, and took the 3rd start of the day. If anyone asked whether he was fit to ride it, the answer clearly did not stop him from going back out. Not the team, not race control, not the medical process. Bagnaia took the start because that is what riders do, and that is exactly the problem. 3 laps in, the problem found him. Not warm-up dizzy, not adrenaline dizzy, the kind of dizzy that makes a MotoGP bike at 300 kilometers per hour stop feeling like something you control. He told GPON, "After 3 laps, I started feeling sick. Every time I braked, my head spun, so I slowed down. Maybe I wasn't ready to race, but in the end, it went well. I didn't cause any problems." Read that line again. A 2-time world champion's metric for success is that nobody else got hurt. He said the same thing to crash a different way, that his feeling on the bike was a bit strange, and he just tried to survive until the last lap. That is not a podium story. That is a near-miss story dressed up as a result. And every single lap he stayed out there was a lap where the only thing standing between him and another red flag was his own decision to slow down. And, oh yeah, there is one more part of this. The podium he is now disowning came with a giant asterisk. Bagnaia crossed the line 4th. Joan Mir finished 2nd on track. Mir got hit with a 16-second penalty for low tyre pressure and dropped off the rostrum. Fermin Aldeguer moved up to 2nd, and Bagnaia slid into 3rd. His first podium of the season is a paperwork podium, and it gets worse. Bagnaia himself was placed under investigation for low tyre pressure too. He was only cleared because his Ducati had a leaking wheel rim. A 2-time champion surviving a race with dizziness and a neck problem got promoted because somebody else's Honda failed a regulation, and his own bike had a mechanical fault that happened to work in his favour. He knows it. That is why he keeps saying he doesn't deserve it. Then came the medical detail that should have ended the conversation. After the race, doctors x-rayed his wrist. Fine. Then they looked at the dizziness. Bagnaia explained it cleanly to reporters. The problem is on the neck. I feel dizzy because of the cervical. I had a huge impact on the neck. The cervical and the muscles here are contracted, and I feel dizzy. A cervical impact severe enough that he was feeling dizzy at the moment of braking. Diagnosed after the race. Not before, not during, after. The dizziness was the symptom that should have pulled him out. The cause was confirmed by medical staff once the checkered flag had already fallen. The system that exists to catch this missed it, because the only person who could flag it was the rider himself, and the rider was busy trying to bring a spare bike home in one piece. None of that changes the fact that the answer, in real time, on a live racetrack, was to keep racing. This is where the story stops being about Bagnaia. Before the weekend, he had been the loudest voice on safety in the paddock. At Le Mans, only 3 riders attended the Safety Commission meeting: Bagnaia, Luca Marini, and Jack Miller. 3. In a championship of more than 20 riders. He had complained about it publicly, by name, on the Friday of the Catalunya weekend. Then Catalunya delivered exactly the kind of weekend that proves why that meeting cannot be treated like an optional chore. 2 red flags from racing incidents, 2 hospitalizations, 1 rider racing dizzy after a cervical impact. And his comment afterwards lands harder than any of his rivals. It's hard to have a say if no riders show up at the Safety Commission. No one is forcing us to race, but we're paid a lot of money and we need to respect our work. That is not a complaint. That is a champion telling the rest of the grid their absence is now part of the problem. That is the belief flip. People watched Sunday and saw a battered champion grinding out a podium. What they actually watched was the only rider in the paddock who has been begging his peers to take safety seriously, racing through a confirmed cervical impact because the system has no mechanism to stop him. Make no mistake, this was never about a podium. It was about the absence of any voice strong enough to say no. The team didn't say it. Race direction didn't say it. The medical centre didn't catch it in time. The riders who could have pushed for change didn't show up to the room where those conversations happen. Bagnaia raced, then diagnosed it himself in the press room. So what does this leave us with? A rider whose honesty is the only thing separating Catalunya from being filed away as another lucky Sunday in MotoGP's growing pile of them. Bagnaia isn't the hero of this story, and he isn't the cautionary tale. He is both, and that is what makes it dangerous. The same man who showed up to the safety meeting almost nobody else attended is the same man who climbed onto a spare bike dizzy, hurt, and unsure he was ready to race, because nothing in the system stopped him. The podium is the distraction. The fact that he was the loudest voice in the paddock telling the truth about it is the indictment. The next time this happens, and there will be a next time, the rider it happens to might not be honest enough to admit it, and we may not find out until the next rider is not lucky enough to walk away. Do you think anything actually changes after this weekend? Or do we just sit and wait for the next near miss? Let us know in the comments below, and once you do that, make sure to click on the video appearing on your screen right now.